What's going on, guys? Today I want to make a quick video about Tether, more specifically US dollar Tether. Now I'm going to be talking about what is the purpose, why does it exist? Number two is what's going on with its reserve, what are some problems with it? And number three, why should you care? Let's get into it. Alright, so really quickly, what is USDT? What is Tether? Well, it's a pegged asset on the value of US dollars. So however much US dollar is, what is the value of US dollar, then that's the value of USDT, the tether, the token that is tethered onto the US dollar. So analogy you can think of is when you go and take the subway. Instead of taking your dollar and ride the train, you go and you use your dollar to buy a token. Now using that, you are allowed to go onto the station. When you leave, you put that token back into the machine. If you have a card, you hold on to that card. Same thing here, right? Instead of having your US dollar and you use that for whatever transaction, whatever service, you exchange that for a token. Now, this gives you a different service. This brings me to my first point, which is what is the use of USDT? Basically, it's for speculation. In the world of cryptocurrencies, if you were to buy some Bitcoins and you bought really low, you want to sell at a higher price and keep that profit, it's always measured in US dollars. You might say, why don't you just use US dollar? Why do you need to have a token for that? Well, the problem is a lot of exchanges, some of the biggest exchanges, don't have banking. A lot of banks are not allowed to provide the services, the transactions for these big exchanges. So what do? Well, you create an asset that is the same value, that has the same pegged value as the US dollar, and it will flow a lot easier, it will exchange a lot easier. People will be able to have more volume, and these exchanges can charge higher fees because of the higher volume. Speaking of volume, look at how much volume per day is exchanged from just Bitcoins to USD Tether. A lot of money is exchanged. So all this is great, right? You give them your money, they hold the money for you and provide you a service. Here's where the problem comes in. The reserve that supposedly they are keeping all of the money has some problems. On their websites, they say that they are very transparent, they have frequent audits. Let's talk about the audits. Not only was their audit back in September, it wasn't even an official audit. It was supposed to be internal use only. Let's assume that that audit was valid. What about now? Right now it's in February and their market cap has grown many times. Their market cap is currently sitting at around $2 billion. So they're saying that they have more than $2 billion worth of US dollars somewhere in their reserve. The problem with holding a reserve of US dollars is that the asset, the property, is actually not theirs. It's the property of US government. And the US government can come in and take away all of their assets overnight if they wanted to. And this has happened in the past. In the 1990s and the early 2000s, there was this asset called e-gold. And what they did was they held some US dollars, but mostly in gold, and issued a token that is representative of the amount that they held. The US government did not like that and charged them with money laundering and took away all of the assets. What's really tragic was that the people who held the tokens lost all of their value overnight. And this, guys, is where we are now. USD Tether, the company, has been subpoenaed by the US government. It's actually been a few weeks now, but the government has been looking into what they're doing and could potentially take away their assets if they wanted to, as they have done before. So what does this all mean for you? Well, first of all, you really should be very cautious and think twice when you are trying to store your value in USD Tether. And the reason I looked into Tether was that here in China, a lot of WeChat vendors and Chinese over-the-counter exchanges are actually selling Tether at a higher premium. The reason they're doing this is they are buying the Tether with a USD account and transferring here in China and selling it for Chinese yuan for a premium, what is known as arbitrage. So what this means is the volume for USD Tether is actually a lot higher than what is shown on exchanges. Now, given what you've already known about the circumstances with Tether, we know that at best they are holding a fraction reserve, meaning they're only holding a portion of what they should be holding in their reserves. So if the US government takes that reserve, or even some bad news come out and people panic and start selling, they might not have enough funds to cover everyone who wants to cash out. And in that case, case, a lot of people will lose all of their value in USD Tether overnight. So what can you do? Well, consider using alternatives such as smart assets on the BitShares network, or try not to keep your value in USD Tether as much as you can. That's it for today. I hope you learned something. Share this with your friends if you learned something, and I'll see you next time.